Okay, we're starting Be'ez Hashem Siman Lamed Daled. V'hinei v'tshuvas harash klal hei ois daled. So the subject here is he's asking kashas, what is the nature of the Shalosh Shevuos? How does it work? How does it work? Because first of all, how did the Maamar say that it's Yihar Gal Yavor? That's the last couple of Simanim. And now he's going to ask that the whole oath can't even be chal, because an oath can only be chal on the people who are taking it. And if you're not around at the time, like, you know, this is a long time ago this oath was made. Shlomo Melech was more than 2,500 years ago, right? So we're talking about people who didn't take the oath. How is it chal on them? Okay, B'hinei b'tshuvas harash, the responsa of the Rosh, Rabbi ben Yechiel. Klal hei ois daled kasav she'i efshar lahashpia hanoyladim. You can't make an oath on people who are not born yet. Hanoyladim achar kach. El chayrim ve'ola efshar lasos. You could make a chayrim, which is like a curse, an ola, another kind of curse. And you could say there's a Siman in Shulchan Aruch. He brings it now. Behuva din zeh b'Shulchan Aruch Yordei Siman Reish Chav Ches Siv Lamed Hey Lishum Cholik. In this Siman, there's a whole section there about takanas that Kehilas can make. Kehilas can make a takana and they can make a chayrim. Rabbeinu Gershom's chayrim, you know, is one famous one. But you can make a chayrim not to do a certain thing, and anyone who does it gets this curse. So that you could do even on future generations. That's really the source for the whole idea of minhag hamakom. You know, there's a shas that if you come from one place, if you go to a place that's a new place, you take on the new minhag. If you're planning to go back, you keep your old minhag. There are minhagim. These minhagim are put in place by the use of a chayrim. There is such a thing that a city can make a takana, but it works with chayrim. It doesn't work with shvua. That's his point here. Shvuos it can't work on people who are born later. It's brought in the Rosh and it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. And he says v'ayin sham b'bir agra. Take a look at the gra, what the makor of the Shulchan Aruch is. He says there are two types of oaths that were chal on future generations. There's matan Torah, that we know the Gemara says all over that if someone makes an oath to do something against the Torah, what's the din?
Doesn't count because there's an oath Sinai.
Right, Mushpa v'oimim b'har Sinai. That there's an oath that all the mitzvahs of the Torah are chal, and that's with the shvuah.
Yes.
So the question is, again, that was given to that door, but all the future generations, how does it work on them? Right? So it's Sai in the Shevuos of Matan Torah, and Hein b'Shvuos Halal, and Sai in the Shalosh Shevuos, Shal Dechikas HaKetz. Ha'ech yicholim lachru al doris haboim. How could they take effect on future generations? V'loi matzanu b'shum makom al Shevuos ha'elu she'enam Shevuos el ha'charam ha'isugzeris. And maybe you'll tell me, like the Shulchan Aruch there, that there's such a thing as making a chayrim on a takana on a city. So maybe that's what they are. But no, we don't find that. We don't find anybody saying that they don't mean oaths. They mean oaths. They don't mean gzeres. But divrei Ramban sheba mishpatei chayrim shaloi b'inyan zeh kashim lahavim. Says there's a Ramban in Mishpatei chayrim. I wasn't able to find which Ramban he means here, but he doesn't go into it. And he says gam lo hiskir mikush shazu. The Ramban doesn't mention this kasha, that how could the oath be chal in future generations. Amnam b'shvuos to matan Torah yedua masha amru chachameinu zal says there is an answer we can give regarding the shvuos of matan Torah. That Chazal say the masha amru kasuv. Pasuk says ki es asher yeshnoi poi. In Parshas Nitzavim, Pasuk says that all Jews in future generations we're all present at Matan Torah. Anybody who is here today, anybody who is not here. All the souls of future Jews, for all time, even the souls of the converts who are going to come later, they were all present at Maamar Har Sinai, and also at the bris in Eretz Moav. Okay, Arbos Moav. When Hashem made these bris and these covenants with the Jews and these oaths, So it's not a kasha. How could Hashem make the shvuah on people who are born later? Because they were there at the time of the Matan Torah. The neshama was there. But these shvuah shal agolius, they have to do with exile, with the chikas hakates. We don't find such a thing that all the souls were present at the time of the giving of the oath. So you can't say that teretz here. You can say the teretz for Matan Torah, but you can't say the teretz for this. Okay, v'ulai hu kamasha amru chazal shvuas lamed tes. So you're going to say a teretz now that maybe the teretz is that all the nevuah of all the neviim comes from Har Sinai. So really the Shalosh Shevuos were said in Har Sinai. Take a look. He says in Shevuos, more Shevuos daf lamed tes, the loyrak ha-mitzvahs shenemru az kiblu b'Sinai. Not only the mitzvahs of Chamisha Chumshei Torah were said at Har Sinai, ela af mitzvahs hasidim liyischadish. Even the Rabbanan mitzvahs that were made later, going Mikra Megillah, kiblu miSinai. Okay, so even Mikra Megillah, the Gemara in Shevuos says, was also from Sinai. Uve Medrash Rabbah, Seder Yisroi, Parsha Chav Ches. The Medrash says there that that all the Nevi'im got their Nevuah from Sinai. Take a look. Nevuah Yoister, Shekol HaNevi'im Kiblu Nevi'uslam Mihar Sinai. That somehow the Nevuah came down to them, maybe to their Shoyesh Neshama. When their Neshama was there in Har Sinai, they got their Nevuah then. V'chein hu oimer, Masa Devar Hashem Biyad Malachi. Beginning of the Sefer Malachi starts out that this is the Devar Hashem in the hands of Malachi. B'mei Malachi loy nemar. Doesn't say in the days of Malachi that he got the Nevuah then. Ela Biyad Malachi. Yeah?
Yes.
That it was in his hand already from the time of Matan Torah. Shekvar hoista Biyad Nevuah Me'ar Sinai. It's just that his neshama didn't have the right to come into the world and say the nevuah until the time he came. But the nevuah was there before. The same thing, there's the pasuk in Yeshaya, it's in Memches, Tes Zayin. The pasuk says, that from the time of it, I was there. So the Medrash Darshans, from the day the Torah was given at Sinai, Sham Hayisi, I was there, the Kibaltius and Nevuah Hazois, and I got my Nevuah then. And then the pasuk continues, V'ata Hashem Elokim Shlachani V'ruchai. But now Hashem has sent me down to say the Nevuah. Yeah? Ela V'ata Hashem Shlachani. Okay, V'loya Nevi'im Bilvad, and then the Medrash continues. This is the words of the Medrash, by the way. Not only the Nevi'im got their Nevuah Misinai, Ela Af HaChachamim Ha'omdim B'chol Dor V'dor. You know, all the Chachamim, that's like it says in other places. Kol Tamasha Talmud Bastikos Chadesh Nemar LaMoshe Misinai. V'im came b'shir Shirim Shu Kodesh Kadashim Yoismi Kol Kisvei Kodesh Kamasha Anu Chazal. That there's
Shiur, the holiest of holiest.
Right in Sefer in Masechta Yadayim there was the machlokes there. Some of the Tanaim held that Shiur Shirim is not part of Tanakh. So Rabbi Akiva said no. Chas v'shalom, there was never any machlokes about Shiur Shirim. Everybody agrees that Shiur Shirim is part of the Tanakh. Mikol Kisvei Kodesh, it's more Kodesh than all the other Sfarim. Kamashal Chazal. V'vaday shenemar oed b'Sinai. So for sure, Shiur Shirim is also from Sinai. Dolay garam yishar nevius. It's not worse than any other nevuah. Divrei Chachamim. V'imkein gam oisna psukim v'yishpati eschem. So therefore, even the psukim of the Shalosh Shevuos of Yishpati Eschem Nemru b'Sinai, they were said by Har Sinai. That those Shevuos were given to all the souls of all the future Jews that were at Har Sinai. So you could say basically the same teretz that you say on Matan Torah, you could say on the Shalosh Shevuos. Now, just to look, by the way, somebody else says another teretz on this. Take a look in page 1 of the Maamar Mekoimis, the Shiur Chadash. It's a sefer written by Rabbi Ber Travis, who was a Rav in Vilna at the time of the Vilna Gaon.
Rabbi Ber Travis?
Yeah.
I see.
So it's a pirush on Shiur Shirim, and he says here, Shpatzi Eschem Enois Yerushalayim, Mikra Zeh Kafelu Meshulash. This pasuk repeated 3 times in Sefer Shir, in the Megillah Shiur Shirim. V'amrinan Shili Ksuvas. The Gemara says at the end of Ksuvas, Gimel Shvuos Hishpia Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisrael. There are 3 oaths that Hashem made the Jews swear, Shol Yal B'Choyma, V'chul. Yeah. V'tzarech bir heichal matzinu shvua zu remuzah b'Torah. Where do you ever find this shvua mentioned in the Torah? Same basic question. V'nira shaharei mushbayin anachnu b'Har Sinai al kol HaTorah kula. There was a general oath upon the whole Torah. U'b'chlalam, included in that was, page 2, Divrei Abris Sheba Torah v'Sheba Mishnah Torah. The Divrei Abris, he's referring to the Torah. You have in Vayikra and in Dvarim. The Shalom Mefurish Shebe'im Yavru Azai Yigalu Mi'artzam. The Torah says Beferish that if they do Averis, they'll go into Golos. Umatza Oisanu Kola Alois. And now all these curses have come true. Imkein al Koch Tzrichim Anachnu L'Kabel HaGolos. So we have to be Mekabel because Torah predicted it, that it would happen. And that's really the Shalosh Shevuos. The Torah is really the Shalosh Shevuos, he's saying. Okay, so just to show you that there's a different way of learning, which basically avoids all these questions. He's saying that the Shevuos are mentioned almost explicitly in the Torah when the Torah says the Torah. That's how he interprets it. And we saw that the Or Chaim HaKadosh, Parshas Hukaisai, also learns the Shalosh Shevuos as Pshat in one of the Psukim in the Torah. Now he's going to ask a question on that, though, that the nations of the world didn't get that. He says, "Omnam kivin sheyesh."
I'm saying this.
Right. Omnam kivin sheyesh pa'ois nashvuos gam shvu leumos ha'olam. Since we find one of the oaths is given to the nations, sheishbiya oisam hakadosh baruch hu shelo yishabdu b'Yisrael yoyis midai. They shouldn't afflict the Jews too much. Kamasha Omer b'Gemara b'Medrash. Was that vaday kasha? That you have a real question. Ki ha'umois vaday loy hay b'Sinai. The nations weren't there at Har Sinai. But the Gemara just says that maybe Gerim were by Har Sinai, not the Goyim. The Kvar Kosev Aramam Mifano Zal, Ba'asar Ma'amoros, the Gerim Minan Nidchu. Says that you can't learn Pshat that the Gerim are just Goyim, and all the Goyim were by Har Sinai in case they were Megayer. It's not the Pshat. The Gerim are people that were from the Neshamos of the Jews, and they were scattered, they were kicked away, and the Menachem Azari Mifano, the Asar Marmaros, 1500s, he wrote this that they're not from the Goyim, they're from us.
Well, except the Gemara does say that their mazals are Sinai. That didn't show myself.
That they're what?
Mazel.
Their mazel was what?
At Har Sinai.
Not from the Shama?
I do believe so, because Sof Yisrael have the greater mile than Gerim. So you can't say that they're exactly the same.
That they're what?
Because Yisrael, Israel have the greater Mila.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that there could be reasons for that. But he's saying that the Neshamas were by Har Sinai.
By an inferior level, not on a superior level, or equal, on an inferior level.
Avaloi Sharhu Umais. Basically, it was only the Gerim, not the other nations. Okay, now, we get to the Avnei Nezer's teretz. Avnei Nezer, Siman, Tafnun Daled, Nis Kasha B'Shvuos Hagali is Gam B'Yisrael. Avnei Nezer asks on both. He asks on the Jews and the Goyim. When were they makabel the oaths? The Loim Watzinu Sheyesa Shlomo Kol Yisrael B'Amrei Yishbati Eschem. We don't find that Shlomo Melech gathered all the Jews of his time and said this shvua. K'moi Shahaya Be'ez Matan Torah. B'frat B'umos Ha'olam Mativa Shal Shvua. He asks also, what about the nations? They don't have such a thing. They don't even know about it. The Tiritz, the Avnei Nezer answers, Shahaista Ashvua L'Sarei Hu'umois. The nations have malachim. Every nation has a different malach, the sar, and the shvua was given to those malachim. Uvi Yisrael, Haisa Ashvua L'Shoirish Nishmoiseim. And by the Jews, the shvua was given to their root of their neshama, l'mayla, above. Beherich bazeh. And this is what I'm going to look at inside in a minute, but this is what I was telling you before, that he compares it to the shvua of the baby before it's born. Okay, anyway, so he says, B'hinei Masha Hiksha. The Rebbe asks on the Avnei Nezer, what the Avnei Nezer asks should be Yisrael, Shaloi Os from Shlomo, that Shlomo Melech didn't gather them. Kvar Kosavti v'yesh l'tarit Shahai v'shas Matan Torah. I just said before that it could be by Matan Torah that all the oaths were given, because all of Tanakh was given. and later on it was revealed through Shlomo, but really it was given before. This that he says that he would have had to gather all of the Jews together, and then he vice versa, he wouldn't have a problem then. I don't understand how that would help the situation, because the Shvuah is on the future generations too. So even if Shlomo would gather all the Jews together, but all the Jews together at that time, but what about the ones who didn't come into the world yet? So you have to say no, that like my teretz before, that b'matan Torah hevi HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'derech nes kol neshamas hasidim liyos. Hashem brought all the neshamas together that we're going to come. Now look, take a look inside the Avnei Nezer, because it's important to see the whole thing. Page 3. He says, when he's talking about the sarim of the Ummos, he says, "Uliyashiv kol zeh nakdim levayer inyan hashvuah ubefrat shvuah de Ummos ha'olam." How do you understand this shvuah on the nations? In the paragraph Mem Daled. V'nir dehinei behada hechsir HaKadosh Baruch Hu es haTorah livnei Esav v'Yishmael. You know the famous story, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the Torah to the Bnei Esav, Bnei Yishmael, and he asked them, "Do you want the Torah?" And they said no. B'shar Ummos Hiksha b'Zohar HaKadosh, Parshas Balak. The Zohar asks in Parshas Balak, "Le'ezeh navi shalahem nigla?" To which navi of the nations of the world did Hashem reveal Himself and ask them if they want the Torah?
It was Bilam, wasn't it? Did he send Bilam? No?
No. There is a medrash that Bilam heard about the Matan Torah. Told the guy,
right, so which navi then?
But there was never an offer made through a navi. Okay, so the Zohar asks this, and the answer is V'tiritz, Sheshol es hasar shalahem. It asks that Hashem asked the sar of the goyim if they want the Torah. Yuyin Sham. V'chayotze bozeh heim divrei Maamar b'Sefer Gvuros. The Maamar in Gvuros Hashem also says similar teretz. Ela she'am b'Lashon acher.
Where is Gvuros Hashem? Is this? I don't know.
V'hinei b'hoirius Yud Gimel Amud Aleph mitnei shesuran ra. There's a Gemara there that Gerim have a bad suran.
What's suran mean?
So Pirish Rashi, she yetzer libam ra. Their heart's yetzer hara is bad. Who yoyser midayim, worse than regular Jews yetzer hara.
As I said before, Gerim have the inferior mila.
Okay, so suram sar shalahem. I think he's quoting Rashi here that yetzer libam ra, and then he says suram. Where's the word suram come from? Sar shalahem. The sar of these gerim is bad. Kedu amar beger shesurei ra.
Because you come from a core where a bad malach was running.
So basically, the Gerim come from another nation, so they have the malach of that nation who is ruling over them. So even after they're Megaher, they still have that malach. So they have a worse Yetzer Hara than anybody else.
Yes.
So now, Mavur the Sar Shel Ha'uma Hu Yetzer Shel Ha'uma. So we see from here that the Sar, the malach of a nation, is really the Yetzer that controls the choices of that nation. So this kind of answers what we asked before. How does the Malach have a right to choose, and how could he force the choice upon the Goyim? Because a Sar doesn't just mean some Malach up in Shemaim. It means this nation's Yetzer Hara. You know, every nation has the Yetzer Hara for a certain thing, right?
Yes.
There's certain nations that love Znus, and some of them love Gneva. Like it says in that measure by Matan Torah.
It's a word here, such our father was blessed by this word.
Right. So the point is that certain nations have more of a Yetzer Hara for certain things. That comes from their Malach. The root of their souls comes from that place.
Because they would give that type of bracha.
Rahav Sar Shel Mitzrayim, Shekar LaMitzrayim Banav. That the Malach of Mitzrayim called Mitzrayim his children because they come from him. Somehow they're connected to him. Me'ata Yefurish Gam Kein Hashvuah L'Umas Ha'olam. So that's what he says. The Avnei Nezer says that's shot in the Shvuah on the nations. The Sarim shall kol Umma v'Umma, on the Malach of each nation, shall lo yasisu kol echad esu masai. And the Shvuah was, don't provoke or don't convince your nation l'shabed b'Yisrael yoyser midayim, to make the Yidden to afflict them too much in Galus. Okay. Mi'achar sheyetzer Umma min asar. The Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Toiv of the Umma of a nation comes from its sar. The Sar could induce them to do whatever he wants. That was the oath. Al Cain, when Hashem punishes his nation, Nifra min asar tchila. He punishes the Sar because the Sar was the one who induced the nation to do whatever they did. Okay, now, next paragraph in Abnei Nezer, that we could say a similar pshat by the Shevuos of the Jewish people. The Shevuah was on the root of their neshamas. The daughters of Yerushalayim. Who are the daughters? Shehem Neshamos, Kamasha Amr B'Zohar HaKadosh. And B'nois Yerushalayim, the Zohar explicitly says on Shir Shirim, it says B'nois Yerushalayim, Ilain Nishmosein de Tzadikaya. Those are the souls of the righteous people.
More so, the Shoma is even less than the Keva.
V'hu ke'ein shemashbiin es haneshama, koyim biyasam lo'elam. So this Shevuah of the three oaths, that's similar to the Shevuah that they make the neshama swear before it comes to the world, to hate tzaddik v'yal tihi rasha. Yeah, this is what we mentioned before.
Yeah.
V'hu gam kein kanal. The pshat in this oath is also the same thing. Sh'haneshama tiyeh chapetza u'ritzoyna l'toyev. It's not a forcing of the soul. It's not a mitzvah. It's not a chiyuv. It's more like Hashem puts that Yetzer Hara into a yid to be a tzaddik. Not Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Toiv. Yetzer Toiv. That he has like an inclination to be good. That's what that Shevuah means. Its desire is to be good. The goof still has the choice to not follow that and go on its Yetzer Hara, but not to listen to the neshama. That's why it's not enough that the Torah was given to the neshama. The Torah had to be given to the goof. But Allah will be sure with a curse and an oath. It's not enough to have the oath just on the soul, because there wouldn't be a punishment for it, because you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything against what was told to you. Because you're not the neshama, you're your goof.
Actually, the neshama is a person.
Right, but the neshama is not the one. A person gets punished. It's his goof getting punished.
Yeah.
So why should you get punished for not listening to the neshama? So it must be the goof was makabel the Torah. Okay, but regarding the three oaths, we say it was only the neshama that was makabel. Okay, now you hear a very interesting thing. Page 4. Yuvenu divrei Rabbi Lazar b'tzvois of ha'aylos asada im kaimus hashvuah mutav im lav ani matir b'sarchem. You know that the punishment, the Gemara says that if you keep the oath, good, and if not, I'll make your flesh ownerless kitzvahs, like the gazelles and the
deers.
Gazelles.
Isn't it
Tzvi is a gazelle.
Really? Because the typical translation, I think, is deer, unless it's not correct.
Yeah, it's not really correct. People think that Tzvi is a deer, because in Europe, there was no such thing as a gazelle.
Right. In Europe there were no gazelles, right.
So they put it on a deer, but really, Tzvi, Rashi and Chulin, I think, says that it's a gazelle.
And, he says in gazelle, it's really what says in Old French, the word for gazelle.
I don't know what he says, but he says it's not a deer. I remember there's a Rashi about it.
Really? Yeah, because gazelles are native to Africa.
Ayal is a deer.
Really?
This word ayal that we're talking about, ayal is the deer.
So wait, who's faster, a gazelle or a deer?
I don't know.
Because I know that it says tzvi, because I know that tzvi does not run the fastest, but they get tired the least. I mean, it shows that she could outrun a deer, but how they'll get tired will take 12 seconds. But a deer will continue running with a tzvi. If it's a gazelle or a deer, they'll continue running without getting tired. So what they mean that the quickest is at the least tiring.
Anyway, so Upirish Rashi Hefker. Rashi says that it'll be matir the flesh, will make it ownerless. The Eina Muvan, Lama Inyan Zed Davka, Ubechol Shvuah Ksiv Ki Lo Yinaka Hashem. Why is this oynish being given Davka for this oath? All the Shevuos it says Ki Lo Yinaka Hashem, Mimarim Shalach Oinshim, Lo Yila'asais Hefker. Hashem gives the oynish. Why is here the oynish that Hashem just kind of like turns his face away and lets us be Hefker? Why is that the oynish here? V'oid Hadimyan B'chayes Asada Kashal Havim. Why are we compared to the animals? Okay, but he says now, Ach Yuvan al Pi Amavur, the Tikunei Zayar Shashal Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon. Aviv, Rabbi Lazar asked Reb Shimon, his father, Mi Shemeis Bein Yid Gimel L'Chaf. Someone who dies before he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
But he's 13, so he's bar onshim, but he's not bar onshim in the Shemayim. He's not bar chaf yet. He's not 20 years old.
Yes.
So the Eze Avoy Mace, what sin caused him to die? The Heishi Reb Shimon, Avoy Noisav Yilkaduhum Es Rasha. The Rasha's sins themselves entrap him. The Nehisha Ein Hashem is Baruch Mani Shoysa. Even Hashem doesn't punish him directly. Mikolakum Misalik Hashkachas Rimenu. He takes away his providence. He doesn't look at him anymore. Doesn't take care of him. And Mimela, the punishment comes. Then he says, "V'cheinu b'kisvei Arizal, v'shar Yetzias Mitzrayim, shebesimen likutei Torah, shebesefer likutei Torah, u'besefer Machberes HaKodesh. V'hinei besefer Moyer Nebuchim." The Moyer Nebuchim, the Rambam says, "Ki hashkachas Hashem yisbarach ala adam be'emtsois hadavuk hu haseichel." That Hashem gives this hashkacha on people through the seichel. So only people who have a seichel have this hashkacha on every single person. Mashenkin, an animal doesn't have a seichel, so Hashem is not mashkiach on every single animal. He doesn't, punish and reward animals. Just the general species of animals have a shmir. Okay. Me'ata. I'm skipping the next paragraph. Me'ata yuvnu divrei Reb Lazar ki af achar hashvua ein avoin al guf adam. Now the shvua was given, but it was given to the neshama, not to the guf. Yeah. If the guf doesn't keep the shvua, the guf didn't do anything wrong. The body didn't do anything wrong. The body didn't get the shvua. Ki guf adam lo kiva shvua. The gam al neshama ein einish, and the neshama also can't be punished because he sees the adam l'toy, because the neshama tried to get the person to do the right thing and he disobeyed. So the neshama will tie it's not my fault, and the guf will tie it's not my fault either because I didn't get the einish. I didn't get the shvua. Yeah, v'aguf ein makabel. Ma pasha, what was the aver? V'aguf ein einish kanal. But the point is that this connection was broken off. Like you said before, the Rambam says that the neshama is the connection between Hashem and a person. That's how the hashgacha comes down. So if that's cut off, if you don't obey your neshama, you can't be blamed, the neshama can't be blamed, but there's a cutting off between the guf and the neshama. So he says, if the neshama itself transgressed, then okay, the neshama is cut off. If the neshama did try to get the guf to do the oath, but the guf didn't listen, then the guf is cut off. So Hashem stops being mashkiach on the person, and he becomes hefker. Like the animals, she'ein lohem neshama, that animals don't have a neshama, they don't have any hashgacha on them.
Their prosperity is not even real because it's a God who's animalistic prosperity which nobody's even jealous of.
Hashem doesn't look at every animal and make him do whatever he wants. It's only a general hashgacha that there should continue to be that. So that once the neshama is cut off from the person, it keeps him close to Hashem, then he's like an animal. That's why we're compared to the gazelles and the deer. It's like, and why
runs away like a deer and a gazelle.
What are you going to say? Not why after those animals, why not a dog and a cat? Because
it would make more sense a dog, because the dog is the most degrading of all animals.
Right, but why? So you're going to say now why I picked those two, because in the Torah when it says an animal of kachim becomes chulin, when a person is poided kachim after they get a mum and they get a defect and he takes money and he's poided, he could eat it. The Torah says like the tzvi and like the ayal, like the gazelle and like the deer. A couple of times.
So why did deer get that? Because they're puzzle for a carbon, nothing to do with that?
Because they're kosher animals, but they can't be used for a carbon, right? He says, Moira al silu kedusha. This thing about the deer and the gazelles is teaching us that the kedusha is taken off. Hi hashkachas Hashem yisbarach k'dichsiv bebehemus kodesh balas mum lachar pidyon ach kasher yachas asvi b'zoayal. That it says by an animal of kachim after the pidyon that it's like a deer and a gazelle. Ki al yidei mum b'bechor, that when a bechor gets a mum meiser, that you can eat that animal itself, or Rishak Kachim B'Mum Pidyon, other Kachim you have to actually be pointed it. Nistalik Kedushas HaKarban Mimeno. Alright? So that's the end of the Adonai. So he says that's the Oynish of the Shalosh Shevuos. That Hashgacha of Hashem is taken away from us. Okay.